With Total War Warhammer 3 somewhere over the horizon, there will come a day very soon where we say hello to the most insane, malevolent, and over-the-top units to ever grace the battlefields of Total War. The ground will shudder, the mountains will shatter, and the warp will howl as the Chaos Dwarfs, Ogres, and Demons of Chaos make landfall. And with them will come the hordes of the Great Maw, the Demon Binders of Chariot, and the Great Enemy, the Infinite Legion. And these races are famous for having unit designs that are completely out of this world, so to introduce you to a few of the new toys likely dropping sometime next year, we're going to be counting down the most insane units in terms of visuals and battlefield prowess. The biggest, the baddest, and the most battle-hardened creatures found in the Darklands, the Mountains of Morn, and the Realms of Chaos. These are the top 5 craziest units we will see in Total War Warhammer 3. And coming in at number 5, we have Skull Crushers of Khorne, a unit that holds a special place in my heart and in many ways is the face of Warhammer Fantasy Battle. The entire setting encapsulated in one single image of one single unit, just a big angry mechanical rhino with a big angry armored dude on top. Blood for the Blood God, skulls for the Skull Throne in a nutshell. Rip and tear until it is done. But it will never be done, because Khorne's hunger has no end. And so the Warriors of Chaos and their greatest champions are gifted with Juggernauts, a mechanical bull rhino of demon metal, more machine than living flesh, to ride out and feed Papa Karnath's rage a steady diet of O negative. But as is the Khornate way, gifts from the Blood God do not come easy. One must venture into the realms of chaos, into the brass citadel of Khorne himself, where the hunting grounds and corrals of these beasts stretch as far as the eye can see. And if you've ever watched PBR Bull Riding Championship, that's what you get here, except the bulls they're riding are actively trying to chomp them in half, rip them to shreds, and decorate the halls of the Blood God with their guts. And so the champions who manage to tame them haven't just shed Olympic-sized swimming pools of tomato juice in Khorne's name, they've also braved the killing pits of the Juggers themselves, bested them in close quarters combat, and broken them as a mount. Which is a quest unto itself, because oftentimes it goes south real quick. And instead of trying to mount it, you end up just trying to fight for your life. Juggernauts have blood of molten fire, so even if you happen to avoid the gnashing teeth and the infamous charge and the stomping hooves, and somehow hack its head from the shoulders, or run it through with an ensorcelled weapon, there's a good chance you'll be burned beyond recognition anyway. So you can rest assured, only the best of the best ride them into battle. And in cultures as feral and savage as those of the far north, that's saying a hell of a lot. Skull Crushers represent a new breed of monstrous cav that will mark its territory once Total War Warhammer 3 is out. A class that stands unto itself at the pinnacle of pure killing power for all forms of mounted units. This class belongs to the Mournfangs, the Rhinox, and the Warriors of the Blood God. On the battlefields of Total War, they'll be uniquely tanky shock cav meant to utterly devastate units on the way in, and they have 2 special rules that help make that possible. Where most monstrous cav in Warhammer gets +1 to their armor save, Brass Behemoth grants +2 to an already incredibly tanky unit of living forge metal. You could easily be looking at an armor value of over 130 in Warhammer 3. And the Murderous Charge special rule gives them +1 strength on the way in. Add Frenzy and Fear on top of that, and you've got a unit of Blender Lords who can mulch their way through the toughest opposition. It's not surprising that Khorne uses these bad boys as line breakers in the vanguard of his armies, a forlorn hope type of unit meant to smash apart enemies and cause chain routes before the main force hits home. From their crimson color scheme to their brutal mounts and savage combat skill, Skull Crushers of Khorne are poised to become one of the premier cavalry units in the trilogy, and are well deserving of the number 5 spot. Now, as we move to number 4, I've got a couple simple questions for you. Do you like destroying entire blocks of enemy infantry in a single salvo of thunderous artillery fire? Do you like flattening your opponents into the mud with the unstoppable charge of a woolly rhinoceros? Do you like combining both options into a 10-ton behemoth of pure killing power that can be used to lob bombs from downtown or get down and dirty in CQB? Then you're going to love the Ogre Iron Blaster, a godlike union of Sky Titan technology and the barbaric brawn of the Ogre tribes. These guys are everything that Hell Cannons should have been and more. An artillery piece that doubles as a fierce melee combatant that can fire while on the move, launching multiple projectiles per volley. Iron Blasters are ancient technology that was used millennia before by the Sky Titans to defend their mountaintop castles during the War in Heaven, when the Ogres were first pushed westwards by the Great Maw. The Sky Titans were a very advanced and technologically sophisticated race and the quality of their guns was amongst the finest the world has ever known. So it wasn't much of a surprise when a few adventurous ogres returned to the ancient giant lands well after crushing the titans who lived there, and found many of these cannons still intact and functional. And it was a relatively simple thing to strap them to a shoddy war wagon and let Rhinox taxi them around, and in so doing, they created some of the most fearsome artillery pieces in history. So instead of the cannon batteries we've been seeing for the Vampire Coast, or the Empire, or the Dwarfs, picture one gigantic cannon that fires 4 shots at once, can shoot while rolling towards the enemy, and doubles as a powerful chariot with a very impressive charge bonus. I mean, you can imagine the devastation that could be unleashed when that thing slams into your lines. On tabletop, it has a 4-up armor save and movement 6, so we might be seeing something like 50 to 55 move speed in Total War, somewhere in between fast infantry and slow heavy cav. And they can absolutely pummel entire blocks of cav or heavy infantry from long range, or get up close and personal and smash stuff into oblivion there as well. We have been waiting a very long time for a truly versatile artillery piece that can defend itself in melee and get aggressive in the late game when it's all out of ammunition. So whether you're using it to drop bombs or shatter dome enemy infantry off the charge, just by nature of its design, I think it's going to be one of the most entertaining artillery pieces we have ever seen in a Total War game. And that is why it's number 4 on our list. So we're on to number 3, where it's time to grind some souls and get real dark mechanicum up in this hoe. Now if you look at this monster and saying, wow, that looks like it belongs in 40k, you'd be right, it does. That's where it started its brutalizing career as a redshirt freshman, and more recently, made the jump to varsity in Warhammer Fantasy 8th edition. If you're ever looking to play tabletop for both games, I would highly recommend playing Demons of Chaos, because there's a ton of overlap between the two settings. And same thing with Soul Grinders, the clinker spawn of the Realms of Chaos. These are frankly horrifying demon engine slaves used as shock troops on the front lines of a Chaos invasion. Now, one of the most frustrating things about being a demon is that sometimes you die and get sent howling back into the abyss from whence you came, and it can be a very long time before your essence has recovered enough to take corporeal form once again. So some demons get impatient in their lust for vengeance and surrender their true name to the Forge of Souls, where they are reborn and bound to a mighty warp metal hulk, and sent out to kill in the name of the ruinous powers. Now, interestingly enough, there is no such thing as a Chaos Undivided Soul Grinder. They all retain the marks of their specific god, but the realm from which they hail is essentially no man's land in the Realms of Chaos, and as part of their bargain, they're forced to defend the Forge of Souls from any Chaos god who would try to claim it as their own. So while none of them are technically Chaos Undivided, that's functionally the role they play, where even Khornate and Slaaneshi Soul Grinders would be forced to work together to defeat an invasion from the Blood Gods or Dark Prince's realm. So should they reap enough souls in their 40k form, rumor has it they're given their old life and body back, but this is the warp we're talking about. There's no happy endings here, besides the one Slaanesh gives after a nice back massage. So a very similar story to the Doomfire Warlocks of the Dark Elves. They take souls to stave off oblivion, but instead of pasty white boys with knife ears, it's a giant demon moving at the speed of Grail Knights on metal crab legs the size of a tree. Get close and you're gonna die pretty horribly. Now, one of the coolest things about this unit are its upgrades. Baleful Torrent gives it a flamethrower, Demon Bone Claw gives it a special attack that hits at strength 10, which is the highest damage roll you can get in tabletop, Phlegm Bombardment, which is essentially a Nurgle catapult arm, and Warp Gaze, giving it a bolt thrower. You can even equip Soul Grinders with a Harvester Grape Shot Cannon as well, so lots of options, lots of customization, and lots of transformations on top of an already terrifying looking unit with tons of close combat potential. Add Implacable Advance on top of that, allowing it to fire while moving towards the enemy, and the Caught by the Iron Claw special rule that, well, wouldn't translate very well to Total War, but one way it could be implemented is that any unit that is attacked by a Soul Grinder is slowed temporarily, simulating a bone-crushing effect as it stomps through enemy formations. I have my doubts if we'll ever see them in all their full glory, but as I am very much a fan of Chaos Divided, I would really love to see 4 separate variations, each with a different color scheme and slightly different playstyle aligned with each god. So Slaaneshi Soul Grinders would get Warp Gaze and be able to fire magic missiles or a bolt thrower from downtown. Nurgle ones would have the Phlegm Catapult. Khornate ones, the Claw for crushing things in melee and rending them apart. And Tzeentch, the Warp Flame Blaster. Do it, CA. Make me a happy boy. I think it'll be great to see them in a Chaos Divided form. And after all that, it should not really be a surprise this one is number 3 on our list. It is a monster, whether up close and personal or from long range, and even if it does belong in the world of Space Marines and galaxy-spanning Xenocide, I still think it has a cool place in Warhammer Fantasy as well. We're into the top 2, and the silver medal belongs to a steampunk creation from the slave pits of Tsar Nagron. And if you like steam tanks, you're gonna love these babies. The Iron Demon War Engine of the Chaos Dwarfs, coming in hot at numero dos. So, the Chaos Dwarfs are all about rune-forged metal, demon binding, and Babylonian hats, and one of the most common ways they channel the wrath of their god, Hashut, Father of Darkness, is by taking a malign presence from the warp and fusing it within the constructs they've made so famous. They are one of, if not the most technologically advanced race in all of Warhammer Fantasy, and so when you combine that knowledge with unquenchable thirst for power, and none of the rules that the Dawi have to adhere to, you get some pretty crazy contraptions along the way. And the Iron Demon War Engine is one such device. This thing runs on kitten's blood, puppy guts, and the hopes and dreams of young children. Bind a demon or two to the engine compartment, give it some unholy coal that never stops burning, and a front-facing cannonade that can mow down a horde of giants, and you've got an unstoppable pain train that can break down walls and pancake hordes of infantry without stopping for anything. Originally, these locomotives were built to carry the Chaos Dwarf war effort with them, hauling siege weaponry and ammo, but if the Dawizar are known for anything, it's about how they add flair and brutality to their pack mules. So, they worked on making them killing machines in their own right, and boy, were they successful. The Iron Demon War Engine boasts one of the longest special rule sections for any unit in 7th or 8th edition, and if CA wants to, they could seriously go ham with this one and introduce a ton of new mechanics. This thing has impact hits and thunderstomps when it makes into contact with an enemy, so off the charge and in melee, things will get squished, but from range, its steam cannonade fires double-barreled death. Unlike the steam tank though, drops a hot smoky load of grape shot instead of a single cannonball. Any terrain or objects that get in its way are inevitably pancaked, and it even has a second variation called the Skullcracker, which is a whirling dervish of battering rams, hammers, picks, and hacking blades, all mounted on the front that turn it into an even more impressive melee powerhouse and a siege weapon to boot. And outside all the obvious utility you get from a terror-causing, unbreakable, unstoppable war machine of doom, it can literally haul other siege weapons across the map for you, allowing you to create an artillery train of magma cannons and rocket launchers as it happily zooms around the battlefield, mulching everything in its path. If you took Thomas the Tank Engine and put a demon inside him, gave him some warp armored plating and a grape shot cannon on his forehead, the Iron Demon War Engine is what you'd see on the other side. A semi-sentient murder machine from range that doubles as a beat stick in close quarters combat. It brings Warhammer steampunk goodness to an entirely different level of badass. I'm telling you guys, artillery is going to enter a whole new world come the launch of Warhammer 3. It will be glorious. And that leaves us at number 1, the craziest unit coming in Total War Warhammer 3. That honor will go to the Burning Chariot of Tzeentch, a chaos god who gets his rocks off from messing with people's heads. And the design of this horror does just that and then some. But it's not just how this thing looks, but how it functions in the realms of chaos and how it murders the enemies of the dark gods that gives it the top spot. Burning chariots are the playthings of exalted flamers, demon engines pulled and crewed by some of the most malevolent and insane beings in the warp. To look at them is to despair. They encompass every trait of their patron god, a flying, knowledge-seeking beast of warp flame that soars through the heavens, attracting blue horrors and screamers wherever it goes. In the realms of chaos, exalted flamers and heralds of Tzeentch often fight for the right to control these war machines, and for good reason. It is a flying chariot that shoots the fires of change out in all directions and eviscerates anyone not already burned to ash, ripping them apart under the instinctual charge of the screamers who pull it. On the tabletop, Burning Chariots can tackle any unit in the game, as they have the choice of unleashing 2 different shooting attacks. Pink Fire is great for chunking through single entities and monsters, and Blue Fire of Tzeentch has a grape shot effect, great for eliminating blocks of infantry. And the fact that they can fly allows them to position incredibly well for maximum killing power. Add to that the fact that they can fly in from behind, and Screamers of Tzeentch are scythed and barbed and meant for close combat, and this becomes yet another very versatile artillery platform that doubles as a melee monster, with the added benefit of being able to fly overhead, zoom in behind, and easily position for a brutal rear charge. Now, it is Tzeentch, and Tzeentch is a massive nerd, so you're not getting a whole lot of durability here, and prolonged combat will put it in the ground pretty quick, but a flanking attack from a burning chariot can decimate an infantry formation, and that is to say nothing of the ranged DPS a Herald or Exalted Flamer, backed up by a pack of blue horrors and screamers, can unleash. One of the craziest things about this unit is that Warp Flame can even grant enemies regeneration for the rest of the battle, which is a blessing and a curse. If you do something like hit a unit of Eternal Guard with a gout of Warp Flame and then leave them to their own devices, then there's a chance you've granted them quite a big boon. They're going to get regeneration, they're going to heal up real nicely in melee, and that might come back to bite you in the ass. But if you happen to stay on target and continue shooting them, suddenly you've granted them additional fire weakness that will let you burn through them all the quicker. Would love to see that particular mechanic get translated, maybe even as a unit target active ability. And anything that gets close is subject to a very severe leadership penalty as the war engine gibbers and mules alongside its demonic crew of blue horrors. This is a flame-shooting, sneaky-stabbing, magical chariot of death and disaster that is quite unlike anything we've seen in the trilogy thus far, and looks completely insane to boot. Functions well in combat, functions well from a visual perspective, one of the units I am most excited for in Total War Warhammer 3. So I hope you guys enjoyed this look at some of the craziest units that will be coming in Warhammer 3 and how they might be translated to the battlefields of Total War. And be sure to let me know in the comment section below which units you are most excited for and which you think should have made this list in the comment section down below. I will see you all in the next one. Indie Pride, signing out for now. Have a good one, guys.